Foodservice Power Plan Network LinkedIn friends. Hi, everybody. It's Jason. It's Monday night coming to you from Colorado where the sun is still shining bright. No clouds in the sky. It's beautiful. I hope you are well wherever you are. I hope the week has started great. You came back, and by now, at the end of Monday, you're dialed into fifth gear and cruising, whatever you're doing. Hey, listen, tonight we have really just kind of an incredible guest. Really a legend. Craig Fischer's joining us. He'd been with Cambro for the better part of 2 decades, almost 2 decades, helping lead that team, amongst other places. We're going to get to learn a little bit about Greg's career journey tonight and kind of what makes him tick and what drives him and what he loves. All the things and the reasons we get together on these. Listen, a couple notes. First, a couple of thanks to the Zumba group, Maureen and Joe and Dave and Nicholas and Sam and everybody over there. You're amazing. Thank you for helping make these conversations happen. Of course, I hope you get FNS Magazine every month. If you don't, go check out our website, fspowerplant.com. You can find out how to get the monthly letters or magazines, all this kind of jazz. And then, of course, to Chelsea and Carolyn and Eric and the team at Crave who built our website, fspowerplant.com, where you can see every conversation right there amongst having some coaching resources, some any kind of support you need, and all of our conversations. Go check that out. A couple of last things. You are welcome. I would encourage you, grab a piece of paper. I got some paper right here. Take some notes. There will be things that Greg says tonight that inevitably you're going to want to incorporate into your journey and your story. Nuggets of wisdom. You don't want to miss those, although you can come back and catch it if you rewatch the conversation. And then lastly, the reason we do these live is to give you a chance to say, hey, to check in, to ask questions of Greg, whatever you've got. I can't promise we'll get to all of them, but I'm pulling up questions or comments right now. What up, bro? I don't know who that is, but I love it. Xena Dater's in the house. Greg is one of the best in the industry, no doubt. Palmer is in the house. Rick Palmer down in Nashville. Yo, Rick, what's up, brother? For anyone on Facebook, you can go to StreamYard.com/Facebook to enter your info, and we'll know who you are. I'll also do my best to look at my phone occasionally to see who's saying hi. Let's go get him. The man, the myth. Yo, Greg.
Yo, what's going on?
How are you, brother?
I'm doing fine. I wanted to look like you. I grew a little beard for this.
You look great. You're pulling off the beard incredibly.
I don't know.
This is what happens in retirement, I guess. This is what happens in retirement, I guess.
Exactly. You don't get up and shave anymore.
So good, man. I love it. Chris Lawson's in the house. Hey, Chris, looking forward to this. Heck yeah, man. And this knucklehead, Chris Lawson, CFSB, we definitely need to pepper the old guy.
Yeah. He's pretty good at that. They're those guys.
They are 2 of the funnest. Greg, listen, so many of us know you. You're doing cool new things with your consulting firm. We're going to learn a little bit about that. So many of us know you from your years at Cambro, but of course, that's not where your career journey began. These things evolve over time. Can you give us, just for those who don't know your whole story, a little bit of your career journey?
Yeah. So, long story short, I was a fraternity brother of mine at TCU, worked at Libby Glass. He recruited me to come to work at Twins, Illinois, which is the parent company of Libby Glass, and worked in sales and product development there. Then later on, I got drafted by Riverman Commercial Products. So I went from selling glassware to trash cans and, they're called waste receptacles. I have to get that right. Waste receptacles, not buckets and ringers. And then later they offered me the opportunity to be a manufacturer's representative in Southern California. I was in Winchester, Virginia at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I had to look it up in an old business book. What's a manufacturer's representative? And as I said later, now I are one. So, long story short, moved to California, started a company called the Fischer Group with Rubbermaid Commercial Products as the first company we represented.
Wow.
And then later moved over to Cambro and did that for almost 22 years, from starting it to turning it over into good hands with my partner, Greg Heron, at the time. So many of you on this call know Greg as well. So and had the opportunity to move from working in Southern California and Southern Nevada, which is where our territory was, to Cambro, who basically covered the world. So it was quite a jump at that time to go to Cambro. The last 17 years I did that, and last March, right about this time, retired from Cambro. And as I said, I went from the fast lane to, I don't even want to say the middle lane. I went to the left lane and kind of slowed down and got off a couple of exits and did some new things. So that's where I am.
Good for you, Greg. Wow. What was, I had no idea that you went from Virginia to starting a rep firm on the opposite side of the country. What was that experience like, completely moving to a whole new place and starting a new firm?
So it wasn't as difficult as you might think. When I started with Libby Glass, they trained me in Toledo, Ohio, moved me to Southern California to be a sales rep in Southern California. And I always kind of wanted to get back. I mean, I'm not going to give anybody that's sitting in snow right now. I sat Denver, you got powdered, I think they're over last week. So, and I really enjoy the outdoors. So, I wanted to make this home at some point, and met my wife actually at Libby Glass, and then ended up getting married, moved to Southern California, and as they say, the rest is history.
Too cool. What a story. There's various moments in your career, and we all have them, moments where we're willing to take some risk, to try something new. It's time for a transition. And you had various moments in your career where something new popped up and captivated you in a new way or excited you. And there's leaders in our industry, lots of people who might be wondering about that for themselves. You were, you didn't hop around, right? You were established and you spent a lot of time in everywhere you went investing. What were signs at different times in your life that you knew it was time for something new? And maybe any thoughts for anyone who might be wondering that about themselves?
So I think there's two things. One is everybody has different views, I think, but I love to be challenged, and not saying that, believe me, all those roles had challenges. There's no doubt about it. But you kind of look out and see that maybe there's something else you want to do, try something different. For example, going from the Fischer Group, let's say, which was a manufacturer's rep firm, which was great at sales and marketing, that when I went to Cambro, it was, you're going from Southern California and Southern Nevada to a global company. You're going from sales and marketing to manufacturing, distribution, product development, dealing with a lot more people, different issues than, let's say, you would have in a rep firm. And the thing that amazed me, it was overwhelming at first at Cambro, because in the end I was a fish out of water, especially on the international side. You're dealing with different cultures, currencies. I grew up in the United States. I mean, everything was the same transportation, everything was the same currency. So it was a different challenge. I'm not going to lie to you, I searched a long time before I left the Fischer Group to go to Cambro, and I actually had a great mentor in Santa Barbara by the name of Pete Giordano. And I said, what do you think I should do? And he goes, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to tell you something. Hopefully you'll remember this. You need to be repotted, I think. And I said, what does that mean? He goes, well, have you ever seen a plant and the roots keep growing together, but it has no place to go? Sooner or later, it stops growing. He goes, I'm not going to say you're going to die, but those eventually what plant dies.
Yeah.
He goes, I think you need to be repotted into a larger container and let your roots grow more, because that's what you seem to want to do. And that was probably the best advice I pass along to anybody, is if they feel they're not growing personally or professionally, maybe it's time to get repotted.
Wow. That is really insightful. I've never thought of that metaphor. I mean, metaphor and analogies are some of the best ways to communicate, right? Through some kind of a parable. And that makes a lot of sense for anyone watching. Holy cow. This is our friend Kim Worley, by the way. Hi, Kim. This is going to be dangerous.
You've no alcohol for the podcast, but I wish I could say,
It is okay if you had one. For what it's worth, it's not prohibited. But this is our buddy Joe Carcione. I feel like I need to leave because I don't have an awesome beard like
Yeah.
that. Great seeing you, Greg. And Jason, of course. Joe, yo, brother. Great to see you. Wow, that was great. Great advice. Do you need to be replanted? And I think it's a great question for lots of people in our industry, particularly longevity is wonderful. We invest in places and maybe we want to do it for another 10, 20 years. You might just love what you're doing and there's new challenge and opportunity, but sometimes it might feel over time that it gets stale. You just might need a new pot to be planted in.
Yeah. And sometimes I think, Jason, it's, be true to yourself. I mean, you know internally what you want, what your gut tells you to do. And sometimes we're just afraid to take that leap. Believe me, both times, starting a rep firm and going to Cambro, both were big leaps of faith. And I'm not going to say I didn't have my doubts along the way. I think if you're honest, you always do, but you stay with it and you find you can get a lot of help from people along the way.
Greg, I love those words. Just that willingness to be true to yourself, to be authentic to yourself and listen and acknowledge that what you're feeling or experiencing is valid and you need to pay attention to it. We don't just shove it down. Holy smokes, Rob Connolly. Hey, brother. Great to see you, Rob. Good luck at the big week that you guys have in your family. Dean LeBay, one of our buddies. Was there an aha moment in your career? I mean, this sounds like some of that advice from Pete might have been some of those. I'm not sure if there's anything else that stands out, Greg.
I think there was. I remember when I was going to start the rep business, the aha moment was I read a letter to my dad. This was the old days. I know I'm old. This was before email. And in those days, you would communicate with the letter. And that was my aha moment when I said, this is what I'm going to do. I know internally it's the right thing for me to try the entrepreneurial route. And as a result, it turned out great. And I was lucky that I had a family that was very supportive of it and helped along the way.
Wow. I love that your dad was involved in that. And it's a little bit funny how our stories parallel. I went from being a teacher actually to joining my dad's rep firm to taking the leap and then buying him eventually, and then made the transition to Cowmill to a manufacturer a few years ago as well. All moments where I asked the same questions you did. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your dad? When I was doing some research and talking to some friends, your dad is Don, am I right?
This is correct. That is correct. Unfortunately, he's not with us any longer, but he sure left a legacy. It's funny. I've said that to many people. Having a mentor it gives you a head start. Doesn't you have to do the work, but having the right guiding principles definitely helps. And my dad was pretty simple. He had three basic things. He said family, faith, and friends. I got two out of the three. I got the family and the friends part, but I'm still hoping on the faith.
Okay.
Eventually. But it is true. They're the people that get you through the tough times. They're the ones you have the good times with. But they're your backbone. They're the ones you can go to. And I think having that, and the other thing he was, along with my grandfather, they were both always willing to help other people, compliment other people, not take credit for things. It was just great guiding principles that they left us with, or left me with, for sure.
Wow, there's a humility to both of them, a bigness in who they were, a presence, if you will. You talk about leaving massive legacies, and yet a humility that followed all of that. Here's a question from Brad. Hey, Brad. Greg, how have you seen this is a loaded question, there's a big one. How have you seen the industry change in your career? You can focus on one or two maybe, and any advice for a youngster?
Yeah. So that's a really, really good question. First advice is don't lose your hair back. It looks like you have plenty of hair. So keep that hair. But I'm going to try to trick stick bad guys. I don't know what it is, but it's just the way it works. Yeah, a lot of change in the industry. I would say the consolidation aspect has been probably the biggest. You've seen a lot of manufacturers, rep firms, distribution. Every aspect of the industry has consolidated more. I would say to this day, and I don't see it changing in the future, it's very much a reputation business, and that part of it is relationships and reputation. I think gets you through. You're going to have bad news you're going to have to deliver. You have good news you get to deliver. But having those relationships can really help along the way, and treat everybody with respect. I don't care if it's the president of the company or the receptionist in the front. If you treat everybody well, that would be my advice, is that the relationship and keep a strong reputation. I didn't get the reputation part right, but relationships, that was good. I do think that's really important in our industry in particular, and I don't see that changing.
I think I love your words, reputation and relationships. One, because I remember, I don't know, not too long after I came in the industry, I got in 2008. We're seeing transitions to not just their transitions, but new ways of doing business via online and via, various elements. And there were comments from people that, relationships don't matter anymore. I would hear that from people. And it never rang true. You look at you and those relationships, are so many people watching, and they can count relationships as one of the strongest components to who they are and where they are professionally. And so, I understand we're in a world of where the things are changing and there's consolidation and PE and all of these different things, but relationships, if they might actually be more powerful and important than ever because of those changes.
I would agree with that for sure. For sure.
Yeah. I love it. What's this? Okay. Yes, they do. Been in this for 40 years last month, and the hair does go away. I love it, Rick. That's funny. Greg was a Rubbermaid. Oh, holy smokes. Jim Monet.
No, one reason Monet is watching to see if she was still alive. And Bernie T. Yeah.
Greg was a Rubbermaid legend when I got into business in 1989, and he was old to me then. Monet, too funny. Mary Ellen Drake. Hi, Mary Ellen. What people in your life have had the most influence on your career? That's a great question. We talked a little bit about Greg's dad. Anyone else that stands out, Greg?
Yes, for especially on my career, many of the people I think on this podcast would recognize the name Jerry Kelly. Jerry Kelly was Woody Glass. He was Cambro in the very early days of Cambro. And I learned more from Jerry Kelly about the relationship side of the business. I remember I went on a sales call one time, and this is probably good for everybody, is I said something in a sales call with him that the customer basically was wrong and I was right. And I was fairly young at the time, and we got back and he says, let me tell you the first thing about sales, check your ego with the car.
Wow.
And I never forgot that. And he was a great relationship builder. He had a great sense of humor, and, he was the one that he was very smart, but he never used that against people or say, I know more than you do. He was always asked them about themselves more than he talked about himself. So I thought that was one of the great lessons I learned in my career, is check your ego of the car and listen more than you speak. And I think that still holds true today.
I think so. I think about something my wife actually talks about with our kids, and she uses this phrase over and over: connection is more important than correction at times, right? To build that connection first. And I think it rings true with customers in our role in sales or anything we're doing. It doesn't mean we aren't right at times and we need to adjust things and correct people at times or just give them guidance on what the reality of the moment is. But it's sure that those moments and that truth doesn't go nearly as far if you don't have any sense of connection and you're not willing to build that first.
Agree. Totally.
This is our buddy Rob. Whoever said relationships don't matter, I'm guessing they aren't still in the business, or if so, are very grumpy. You're probably right, Rob.
Alex said it vividly, not out to Winterberg.
He did. Who's this one? Rick. Rick. Relationships are the number one reason, and respect is side by side. If you don't have one, you won't have the other. Relationships, and respect. Well said, Rick. Greg, tell me now. Okay, other than growing an awesome beard, you're retired in air quotes to some degree. You've got a new consulting firm that you're working on, and you've got some customers. Evolution Consulting. Can you tell us a little bit about this? And who do you
that? I would be happy to. First of all, I got a note from one of our large end user in our industry, and he titled the subject line "Not So Retired Guy." So I thought that, and then my wife says when people said, "Oh, is Greg retired?" She goes, "It's fake news. It's fake news." So I can't really sit still very well, and I did want to give back a little to the food service industry. Number one, but I've been working on. I have 5 different projects right now. One is a new product that taking to market. And from the marketing aspect and the product line aspect, that's been a lot of fun. I'm doing sales training, doing video capabilities for companies. I've done some marketing and actually I'm doing consulting for research and development companies as well. So a little bit of everything. And I'd like to say that the nice thing about the business is I called it evolution because I always feel like you have to continually evolve. And I think others want to continually evolve. They want to be better. Anybody that's in this industry or even on this podcast, they're here to learn a little more about what maybe they can do better or can share experiences with others. That's why I think your podcast is so great with people, is they get a little of everything from everybody. And I think that learning from each other is what it's all about. And, the whole thing about evolving, I don't want to say it so harshly, but if you don't continue to evolve, sooner or later you become stagnant. And that's probably not a good thing for any of us.
You're right.
So that's kind of what they've been doing.
Greg, that's amazing. I think it's amazing. I love that you talk about back and forth, like you're learning too. I think, are you a lifelong learner? Would you describe yourself as someone who just loves learning?
Yes. And I say I like to read. I'm not a voracious reader, but I think I learn a lot more from people in general and observation. I think you can learn just as much by just being observant and listening. I've learned more from people let's say at Cambro or the Fischer group about how to solve a problem that I could have ever thought of. So I think that's, I think we all should be lifetime learners, but it's not just, in books or podcast or any other format. I really do believe it still is about learning from each other. You can really learn a lot if you sit back and listen every once in a while.
I think this leads us, I'm going to say hi to Josh. Josh says, "What's up, gentlemen?" Yo, Josh Callahan's in the house. Hey, homeboy. You talk about listening and you talk about learning from other people. And it's, it's hard to sell a thing if you're not willing to listen to what a challenge is or someone is hoping that you help them solve. It might lead us into the question around leadership. You've been a leader for a long time, Greg. You remain that way now. Not just in your organizations you work with, but you're a leader in the industry. So many look up to you. What are a few key elements that you think best define a leader that you would say leaders need to have? Maybe one of them is that ability to listen, etc.
Yes, I would say, leading is twofold. I think the first and most important is you do need to listen. No great leader, other than a dictator, is going to lead without listening to advice from others, or, hey, maybe we should do it this way. I know there's some of the people on the call on this podcast that have worked with me, and I think they back that up as, well, what do you think we should do? I do think, though, a leader, it's their will to have a vision and create that vision, then have a strategy. And as I always said, hope is not a strategy. Oh, I hope we can do this. That's not a strategy. And then getting the team that you're working with to have buy-in, but make adjustments. Be willing to make those adjustments. I can tell you so many programs over the years that I thought were great. I listened to customers or our sales representatives or our managers, and they're like, that won't work because of this, and this won't work because of that. And then eventually you come to an agreement where everybody has a little of the buy-in. It makes it a lot easier to implement that and that vision and strategy. If you have the majority of the people bought in, and sometimes you do have to have that courage and faith to say, okay, I'm sorry, the 10%, we're still going far, because that's what you believe has to be done in order to make it happen. But I really do think that collaboration, everybody talks about collaboration, but if it's truly done, it makes achieving your goals so much easier, for sure.
Heck yeah. And certainly when you have a majority of people on board that believe in the vision, et cetera, and it's easier to implement. But it's also, there's probably a role as you create the strategy and you get the buy-in. I think this is something that, as I've met you, Greg, and known you over a period of time and talked to friends of yours, I think one of the things you're gifted at is in telling the story and helping create and foster that buy-in, selling it to your teams of, here's where we can go, having it be a vision that's big enough to inspire people to be like, heck yeah, that's something I'm willing to, to go to town for, and let's go to work and hustle for. And so I think that's another just a gift that I see in you or hear about you, that ability to convey and sell the vision in a way that inspires people. So way to go. Way to go.
Thank you.
Pride. We talk a lot about, here we go. Who's this? Anna Maria. Hi, Anna Maria. Go. Good to see you. We talk about pride in the food service power plant community. Pride is just a key component of confidence. If we are not proud of ourselves, certainly of our teams, it's hard to get excited about how we're living our lives. Was there, and that's different than ego. I think sometimes people are afraid to be proud of what they've done, who they've been, because they're afraid that border ego, and the two are so different. Any proudest moments of your professional life and or your personal life?
Well, personal life's an easy one. Personal life, my proudest is my two children, Andrew, my son, and Lindsay, my daughter, and just seeing them grow into what they've become as just good human beings and just great kids. And I'd like to take the credit, but all the heavy lifting was done by my wife, because I wasn't always there. I was traveling or doing other things. So a lot of that credit goes to her, but definitely proud of that. And actually, my extended family, my brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, grandkids, that's to me is personally what I'm the most proud of. Professionally, I would say the two things the most proud of is, the old Boy Scout saying is, you leave a campsite better than you found it. I think that holds true in work. I believe, when I left the Fischer group, I left it better than I found it. And that's a pun, actually, because it was foundage. I think, but if the other one was Cambro, and having worked and helped build and grow a great team there and left that in good hands as well. So I think those two things I'm quite proud of, that I was able to do that. And it wasn't me, it was all the people that helped me along the way, for sure.
Well, I love that. I appreciate that. I have a feeling certainly you weren't alone in it, and there was an enormous teams helping build with you. But kudos for helping align people to move in the right direction to leave things better and leave people when you're able to leave and the organization is still able to thrive because you've helped people grow in and develop into who they can be to their fullest potential in their roles in your team. Not much better than that. This is Rick. Being humble takes precedence over ego, at least in my book, of course. Claudia, our friend Claudia, Harry down in Atlanta, Greg, super human and super humble.
Claudia's the best. It's great.
He is the best. I would agree with you. Another thing we talk about in our community is challenge. It's easy to look at leaders and not see the challenge they might have walked over or overcome, or the resolve they've had to demonstrate to work through moments of challenge in their life. It's just easy to pass that by, yet we all have them, inevitably. Greg, was there a moment of challenge in your journey that stands out that, you had to walk through and that really sort of taught you who you were, what you were made of?
I think that starting a company from scratch is probably the most challenging thing. You learn about how to incorporate, you learn what business taxes are all about, you learn about hiring, firing, and literally, every aspect of a business. And I think people look sometimes at manufacturers' representatives and say, oh, well, all they do is go out and just put something in a bag and go out and sell. As you know, your father had an agency. It's a lot more than that. And you are running a business. You do have sleepless nights about payrolls and commissions and all of the other things that are involved in that. So I would say at the time, I was 27 when that all started. And that was fairly young to start a business. But on the other hand, I was dumb enough. I didn't know any better. So I do think, again, I was lucky because I had, a great accountant, a great not financial advice, but also an insurance and legal. And getting those done right at the beginning made a huge difference. And honestly, I learned the one thing was if you hire an attitude and their reasonable intelligence, they can pretty much do anything because attitude overcomes so many other things. And again, if you're talking about a nuclear physicist, I don't think that attitude's going to necessarily get you there. But in the relationship game, it definitely does. That positive attitude.
It seems like that's something that was a key component for you in terms of mindset, positivity, in trainings and ways that you tried to lead others. Did you find that kind of positive belief in what's possible? Was that something you actively thought about as you communicated offering your services at Fischer and Cambro to your teammates?
And it was and it wasn't. Some of it was through, I saw early on in my career a gentleman named Tom Peters. I saw him live. He wrote the book Good to Great. He wrote several other books, but he was arguably one of the most positive people of finding the good in people and in companies. And I think a lot of that came from that. But the other part of it is just simple, common logic that everybody wants to be recognized, for what they do and who they are. And again, that takes a little time. And I think some leaders look at, hey, we're too busy. I really don't care if you had a baby yesterday. We need to get this done. And no, you need to take that as your first priority, and that way your work will happen a lot better. So I just think that side of it is more about caring for other people than necessarily yourself. Yes, things need to get done in a company and you have goals and objectives, but it's not going to happen without people believing and being on the same side you're on. So that's...
Love it, Greg. This is Dirk Happy up in the Pacific Northwest. And hey, Dirk, all I can say is listen to Greg. He taught me everything I needed to be successful. How cool is that?
Dirk's a good man.
I would agree. Hey, Dirk. Okay, Greg, so I heard a story. It involved some kind of training, and everyone was out on boats. Was at the Newport Harbor. Your boat came back approximately an hour later than everyone else's, and sounded. Someone told me to ask you, how did that conversation go with Argyle after you arrived back about an hour late?
I'm glad you left me this now, and now I was working with Cambro. So the story is we had a Cambro college, and we had 60 people. We had 2 big buses, and we had 8 beds in the harbor. And my nephew, Mr. East, which was, I'm sure, where you got this story from, is he decided we were going to race to see if we could get out in the ocean. Well, these boats are ocean-going vessels. So we kind of got caught in some waves, and we ended up coming back way late. Everybody was waiting for us on the dock, on the things, and I'm getting my phone text from our owner, Argyle Campbell, at Cambro. Well, I knew what are you doing? Aren't you that's from? Well, I went able to look back to the dock. So we get there. Now, of course, you have to understand, if you're out in Newport Harbor and you're on boats and it's in the late afternoon, there is some alcohol involved. So we get back to the dock and our guy says, where the hell have you been? I said, I'm sorry, we had a flat tire. That's just getting the bus. But I think that's a good story to tell, because sometimes you can, disarm people with a little humor. It doesn't always have to be so damn serious about everything. And he was a good spirit about it. That I held my nephew responsible for that activity. It was not my fault.
I imagine fingers going this way between you and he.
Absolutely.
Lots of ways. It was his fault. No, it was his fault. This is Dirk again, I think. True. I was 21 and I got the course from Greg on success. I got a PhD level education. Pretty awesome. Ryan McPhail. Hey, Ryan, those courses at Cambro University are always a fun event. It sounds like it might have, even when you get flat tires. Sweet, says Zena. Gratitude. There's a lot to be grateful for, certainly. It's another component of what we focus on. One of our kind of components to our community is you find what you look for. And so, the more we can, we build the muscle of gratitude. Anything in particular, Greg, in your life that you find yourself particularly grateful for?
So I would say first and foremost, family, without a doubt. That's the thing I'm the most grateful for. I was blessed with great parents, great grandparents, my entire family. I'm so grateful for, and it's not just my children and my wife, but my sisters and brothers, the nieces, nephews, everybody. It makes life. That's what I'm so grateful for. And of course, your health. Everybody always says that, but it is true. I mean, you can't really enjoy your life if you're not healthy. And I do think that that health aspect is a big part of being grateful. And then I think the last thing I'm very grateful for is again been so fortunate to be around a lot of great people that I've worked with, and that to me is in gratitude at its utmost in the workplace, is that you have people that not only do you want to help, but they want to help you as well. And I think having great people you're surrounded with really does make things a lot more fun, and I'm very grateful for that.
I love it. Chris, I plead the fifth about the Duffy boats, or I drank the fifth.
The line is probably true. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, man. Greg, we like to end our conversations with this question. Success. Everyone defines it differently, has a different take on what that means to them. Anyone watching no one here is watching who doesn't desire to experience some element of success and pride, both in their career journey and in their personal lives. How do you define success in your world?
So when I was younger, Jason, I always thought it was to make as much money as possible, buying a nice house, all of those material things. And as my career evolved, it really, to me, became very simple. It's, taking the time to help others and mentor others. If you can do that, I really think you have a successful life, because it's not about what you do. It's about who you can help. And I learned that from, I never really understood it when I was young from my grandfather and my father, but it's very true. That's what I think success is helping other people to become better, to know that if you listen to them, that maybe they can breathe a little easier, sleep a little better at night, maybe help them through a problem or two. And to me, that's what it's all about. I really do. It's doesn't even, when that question of success comes up now, it's super simple. It really is. It's just about others. And
well, go ahead, keep going.
No, the only other thing I would say is never take yourself too seriously. I think that causes undue stress on yourself more than anybody else. So, and it's okay to laugh every once in a while and have a good time and have a little humor in your life, and maybe sometimes be a little self-deprecating. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt you. So that's bottom line what I feel success is.
Well, I love both of those. Creating, being a part of something meaningful in the lives of others, and then finding a way to laugh. Dirk says you nailed it. Life's about heart condition, employing your God-given talents for the benefit of others. Heck yeah, Dirk, well said. And I think it's also in line. I love that your definition of success has evolved over time. You mentioned the name of your firm, right? Evolution. And all of our journeys, and even your beliefs around what matters and what's important, evolve over time. I think that's kind of cool. Greg, I don't know. I know you've seen these in the past. I don't know if you watched to the end, but what we like to do is we end with something called encouraging words. And this is where I find people who know you. Thank you to our buddy Chris, who gave me some connections and mentions people where, because too often we make a difference in the lives of people, and we might not get to hear it. So in a very public way, I want to share with you some. Now, the first is from one of our buddies. Talk about not taking ourselves too seriously and having fun. Our buddy Peter Lutz said that you like to greet him with the middle finger. So this is from him.
So that, and we just say, well, but this watch and send it back to what they're about.
Oh, Peter, here you go. Right there you go. That's it.
Pretty good, Peter. No.
I gotcha. That's really...
I'd imagine that.
That was too funny when he let me know that. Here's some words from Peter. I had the pleasure of working with Greg for the past decade. I consider Greg to be the best salesperson I've ever known. He has the charisma, the experience, the intelligence, and the likability that few possess. It wasn't until the last year or so when I realized what Greg's most significant attribute was. It's his passion for people. As a leader, Greg's kind and caring approach with everyone he encountered created a culture where everyone followed suit. It didn't matter what your title was or your department. If you crossed paths with Greg, he took an interest in you and he got to know you. Greg, thanks for all the valuable lessons and countless laughs along the way.
That's very nice. Thanks, Peter.
Pretty cool, Peter. Next, our friend Sophia Rosillo from Trimark. In the first, it is hard to believe it's been 20 plus years since I first crossed paths with Greg in the dynamic world of food service. Throughout this journey, Greg has been more than just a network contact. He's been a mentor, a coach, and most importantly, my friend. Greg Fischer has been an incredible mentor to me throughout my entire career, guiding me both through smallwares distribution and supply chain restaurant operations with unparalleled wisdom and support. He taught me the differences in food container boxes, for example, like when we should use polyethylene versus polycarbonate, and it was oddly entertaining. His trailblazing leadership within our industry is truly inspiring, and I'm grateful for the invaluable guidance he's provided. His approach to business relationships, always seeking a win-win outcome, exemplifies his dedication to collaboration and mutual success. Beyond his professional prowess, Greg's humor and his engaging storytelling never fail to bring joy and laughter, making every interaction memorable. Thank you, Gregorio, for always being just a phone call away, and I'm wishing you continued success.
Thank you very much. That was nice. Very nice. Oh.
Yeah, too cool. Our mutual friend Wayne Jones with the Hanson Group down in Atlanta. I met Greg Fischer for the first time at Cambro College training. He was the partner of the Fischer Group, and he had been asked to present to new rookies like me. Little did I know how much his mastery of presentation that day would affect me. I was completely impressed with his preparation and his zest for optimistic training. He taught the group the way to command attention through positive reinforcement with your audience, and it sure worked with all of us participating that day. For many years following this meeting, I always attempted to have my presentations be fun and memorable and therefore impactful. Greg had become vice president at Cambro, and I relished every chance to watch him present in every capacity, whether small groups or large. He is very artful at making everyone seem like a friend while he's speaking. As long as I'm in the industry, I will always remember his speeches as nothing but positivity. I loved his way to bring a sense of hope in some not-so-hopeful times. One of those times was during the recession of 2008. I remember stating over and over, we are not participating in a recession, and he gave various ways to stay on top of it. His ability to bring humor in most situations was very fun to watch, and when he announced his retirement, it was a sad day for me personally. But I feel so lucky to still stay in touch with him, and I credit Greg in much of my success.
Wayne's great. He's awesome guy.
Just one of the best. Our friend Kim Worley from Edward Don. I've had the great pleasure of working with Greg for the last 10 plus years through many different stages of my career. Outside of his knowledge and passion for the industry, Greg has the incredibly rare ability to both empower and enlighten everyone he comes to contact with. His joy and his professional optimism are contagious and something I will always strive for in my personal life and professional career. I too often find myself in situations involving difficult decisions, thinking to myself, what would Greg do? He's giving the younger generation of food service a reputation to strive for, and I will forever be grateful for the support, the wisdom, and the friendship he shared with me these last few years.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kim.
Kim, everybody, beautiful words. The last comes from someone special to you and to many of us, our buddy Chris East. And like everything you two, I'm sure, do together is full of heart and humor. I'm just going to run with what Chris said in his email to me. Greg Fischer is so full of shit.
That's Chris.
He was full of it when he said he was going to retire. He was full of it when he was going to ride off into the sunset and stop innovating. He was full of it when he said he was going to play 18 holes every day and stop collaborating with others, helping them in their success. He was full of it when he said he was going to quit mentoring countless folks in this tight-knit fraternity we called food service. So basically, Greg is full of shit. but the industry continues to thrive on their relationships with him and the fun associated with time spent with him. At Crane, we know firsthand Greg is full of it, but we continue to love the guy and have gratitude for him. It's no secret Greg Fischer helped put Craniacs on the map. He coached us the way a tough and loving coach mentors a team, and not one to put up with our BS. But maybe, most importantly, Greg taught Crane and countless others by example how to think big, how to drive genuine and impactful relationships, and how to constantly innovate without losing your heritage. And maybe most importantly, that food service should truly be fun. That, my friends, is no bullshit.
Oh, as Ellen Chris is convinced, yeah. If you never even had to say the name, I would have known who that one was from. For sure.
So good. Oh, our buddy Rich O'Brien. Greg is a mentor and my hero. He always believed in me, especially when I didn't believe in myself. Too cool, Rich. Listen, Greg, you're, I don't know, man. If your goal was to serve others and to, you define success by impacting in a positive way everyone around you, then man, capital S, the whole thing. You have lived it well. You are a massive success because you've impacted so many of our lives. And from everyone watching here, we really want to thank you for all the years of service that you continue to pour in.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. And I enjoyed all the abuse I took from everybody, and I will look forward to more of it in the future. Thanks so much, Jason. Thanks for everybody out there on your comments, too. It really means a lot.
This is really fun. We'll leave. Dean's commented, Greg, having only met you once, you must have had incredible parents, given your sister's boy has been an inspiration in my journey in the industry. That's pretty cool, Chris. Listen, everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget why we do these. We get to connect with industry leaders who are willing to share their story. We talk a little bit about work and a lot about life, remembering that we're both and that we lean into both. And our goal is to invest in ourselves and our communities and our families and certainly our work as well. We overcome things, all of us. We can do hard things. Greg talked about some of his journey. If you're in a spot in your journey that feels particularly challenging, look, keep going, keep moving, keep pressing on. Greg talked about mentors in his life and the meaning of people to help kind of walk with him arm in arm along the way, and find your people in your world who believe in you, someone you can talk with and connect with. Certainly together with those closest to you, you'll get through this time. You'll keep going. We believe in you. Travis, great episode. Thank you. Mary Ellen, Greg has served our industry well, been a mentor to me and others. We love it. Food Service Power Plant Network and LinkedIn friends. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you again soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Bye now.
You've got it.